Welcome everyone to the May meeting of the Valley of the Sun Deconstruction and Reuse Work Group. We're joined today by Quinn Vittum, who's the Executive Director and co-founder of Reuse Hawai'i, which has been promoting circularity in the island state for nearly 20 years. Before we turn things over to Quinn, however, and as everybody arrives and settles in, we've got just a little bit of context to share. First, if you've not joined us before, who or what is the Valley of the Sun Deconstruction Reuse Work Group? We are based in the Phoenix, Arizona metropolitan area. We spotlight deconstruction, reuse, and sustainability progress, plans, and goals, really as models for broader awareness, consideration, and we hope adoption. We welcome participants regardless of geographic location, and we also invite you to join us on LinkedIn. We'll put the link for our LinkedIn group in the chat in just a few minutes so that you can find us and share information as well as stay aware of upcoming events. We will also be happy for you to email us with suggestions. We'll put our email in the chat as well. The meetings are sponsored by Stardust, which is a nonprofit in the Phoenix area for about 28 years now. And we will put the Stardust link in the chat as well. Whoops, okay. A preview of coming attractions. Next month, we will be having guest presenters of Gretchen Worth, who's the project director of the Susan Christopher Center for Community Planning, and Andrew Robley from the Historic Preservation and Planning Education area. And they are going to be sharing with us information about an approach to transform vacant public schools into building circularity centers. Excuse me. Pardon me. Now, as you settle in, this is a community, so we think it's good to get to know and connect with each other. So we invite you to share your name, your organization, your location, anything else you might like in the chat. You might discover someone that you want to have a follow-up conversation with or connect with, and we will share the Zoom chat afterwards along with the link from the recording. And as you introduce yourselves in the chat, we're going to conduct 2 polls, and that will help us learn what part of the country or world you're in and what organizations or sectors you represent. So the first one, this is one answer, please. What area best describes the geography that you represent or serve? And Jen, I see you've launched. Thank you.
Yeah, so I've gone ahead and launched the poll. So if you could please respond to the region that best represents where you're at today. Wonderful.
And we've been very fortunate that we've started to have a handful of participants from outside the United States, so we may have to get a little more detailed in our options, but we're thrilled that you're joining us. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll give folks just another few seconds to respond. Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share responses here. It looks like if you can see those responses, so most folks are coming to us from the Southwest today, but we have some good representation from around the country. So thank you for that.
Super. Next question is, this one you can give multiple responses because we know that many of you wear multiple hats. What organizations or sectors do you represent? And we have left everybody with control of your microphones, so if you've got background noise, we ask that you mute, please.
And that second poll is launched, so I'm seeing some responses come through. Thank you. And so we'll give folks just another few seconds here. Again, it looks like we're seeing some pretty wide-ranging types of organizations today. Wonderful, thank you. I'll go ahead and end the poll and share those results with you. So again, you can see that we have some varied organizations with us today representing deconstruction, federal and local government, and nonprofits and reuse. So we're glad to have you with us today. go ahead and feel free again to share your um, name and where you're coming from in the chat, and feel free to make some connections with other folks today.
Okay, super. Thank you. Okay, now we're about to move on to the main event. But as we do that, just a reminder, the recording link in the Zoom chat will be made available to everyone who registered. Quinn does have some prepared materials to share, and he said that he's comfortable taking questions along the way, but we've also reserved time for questions and for conversation afterwards. So while Quinn is presenting, if you've got something urgent or you want to flag it right away, go ahead and do that. But if you'd also just like to capture it and we'll catch it at the end, do go ahead and type any questions or comments into the chat, because we'll make sure that we start with those when he wraps up his materials. We would like to leave you with local control of your microphones and cameras so that this can be more interactive and a lot more relaxed, but just be aware of background noise if you would, please. There is a brief end of meeting survey. That's feedback to help us improve our meetings, and also a place to let us know if you'd like to present at one of our upcoming sessions. Okay, so this is the transition point. Quinn, please start sharing. I'm happy to turn things over to Quinn Vittum, who is the Executive Director and co-founder of Reuse Hawaii. I'm Kathy Trontel, and I'm a Stardust board member. Quinn, take it away.
Kathy, thanks so much. You're such an expert at facilitating these. I really appreciate everyone having me, and thrilled to kind of share a little bit about our story here over here at Reuse Hawaii. And I've got kind of 5 things that I just want to highlight about the benefits of the work that we do, and also 5 tips for the practitioners amongst us that are kind of knee deep in the field, because I've been doing this since 2001, and just have a couple of tricks that I wanted to share, and possibly the same ones you already know, but thrilled to spread the knowledge. So like Kathy said, I'm Quinn Vittum, Executive Director of Reuse Hawaii, and I've been lucky to be in the industry for it's my 19th year with Reuse Hawaii. And then 5 years before that, I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and I worked for a place called Second Use Building Materials. And then I did 2 startups. One was Habitat for Humanity Restore, and then the other was called Olympia Salvage, where we worked at Fort Lewis, the Army base, deconstructing buildings there. Then in 2006, I moved to out here to Oahu, and started up Reuse Hawaii. So I'll just share that we are addressing the same issues that everyone here on the call is concerned with, is that construction and demolition waste is a huge contributor to our landfills, and a lot of that material is reusable or recyclable if we think about how we're doing that demolition work. And so that's where deconstruction comes in. Here as an island community, we've got more of an existential situation on our hands, where the landfills are closing. We've got a booming construction industry and no new site for a new landfill, except for one that's like right above the aquifer, so you wouldn't want to do it there. So real challenges for the local community here. So this is a national stat that just demonstrates how big construction and demolition waste is as an overall contributor to the waste stream, but also, as we know, an opportunity to also generate incredible community resources from that material. So what we're trying to get away from is this linear economy model, where material is extracted from the earth, goods are manufactured, and then material is dumped. And in some cases, there's like a planned obsolescence, right? Where material is, breaks and you got to buy a new one. So, and then the flip of that is the circular economy. And there's a big field of study. I have a QR code coming up in a minute, but the three things that we like to talk about with the circular economy is keeping products and material in use. That's what we do. Obvious one. There's also regenerating natural systems. So think about any conservation work happening in your community. And then designing out waste and pollution. So here in Hawaii, we have an architecture firm that created a sustainability studio, and they're specifying both deconstruction and material salvage, but also the application of salvage material in new construction. And so you can start to see how the circular economy takes shape when people really take the commitment. So if you want to learn more about the circular economy, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a QR code for their website. They have just a really great way of kind of breaking it all down, and you can learn more about what the circular economy is. So our programs, we've kind of created this array of different activities that try and address all parts of the waste crisis and the opportunities to perform deconstruction and generate local affordable resources. The first is our deconstruction operation. It's the first thing that we did when we started back in 2006, because you don't need a giant warehouse right away. We just got some projects going and a small 5-person team, and started performing as a licensed and insured deconstruction contractor. And then the material goes to what we call our redistribution center. We have a 53,000 square foot warehouse with a 40,000 square foot yard. We also have 25,000 square foot material processing and tree milling yard, which is about 20 minutes away from that facility. You know, I was telling some new hires this morning that you can salvage all kinds of material, but until you find a way to redistribute it to somebody in the community that has a use for it, you just you know, haven't fully fulfilled the mission. So, and let me just pull up the chat because I see some things going on. Oh, name of the architecture firm is AHL. Great folks. So those are our programs, and we also have kind of three other small ones. There's a workshop, so we build things out of salvage material to both inspire what can be done with salvage material, but also generate more revenue and add value to the material that we have. And then there's our workforce development initiative that started about 5 years ago, where we train and employ folks that have barriers to employment. And in fact, in 2 weeks, we start a 6-person cohort of folks that are transitioning from homelessness, and we're giving them 6 months of job training and employment, and then helping them get a job after that. And that's a grant through the Department of Labor. And then the last is tree reclamation. When I lived in Washington State, my friend had a place called Windfall Lumber, and they do all kinds of things now, but back then it was, you know, they were milling logs into slabs. And out here in Hawaii, we have a lot of trees that come down that somebody doesn't have a use for. So we take it and we use what's called a Lucas mill, and we mill it up into 2-inch slabs, and we're playing around with different dimensions. But that's been a really great additional revenue generator. And who doesn't like live edge slab, right? So this is a time lapse of a typical deconstruction project out here. The buildings here are built single wall, so there's no wall cavity. It's a tongue and groove wall board, so it's as if they had us in mind when they were building the places. So we come in and this is a 3-week project with about 4 to 5 people, and we take all the things that were put in last. We take those out first, like light fixtures and cabinets and doors and windows. And then we get up on the roof and take the asphalt off. And then the subroof can be really tedious because you have to cat's paw it, pull it out from the nail head. And then the rafters, and oftentimes we don't save much from the eaves, from the overhangs of the roof. One of the keys that we figured out is to use these stack racks. You can see this sort of pallet with corner posts. So all the material is going into that, and it's being trucked out to a separate site where we do where it's dedicated to material processing. It saves a lot of on-site time, and because folks are always anxious to start building the new house. So we figured out that trick, and got to have one of these compact telehandlers for that. So you can see that doing a lot of work at the site. This house had tongue and groove oak. You can see them doing that there. Takes a lot of finesse, but you can save all that tongue and groove. And then the joists are all true dimension, Douglas fir. Lots and lots of great material. You can see them doing a little bit of processing on site. And then sometimes we pull the slabs out, but other times folks that are building the new house just come in and prep the site, and they do the slab. So yeah, that's a typical deconstruction for us. So the 5 benefits of deconstruction, I think a lot of you already sort of have this broken down, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate the ways that we talk about it. So the first benefit is the obvious one of reducing waste, but also there's a tremendous amount of embodied energy in building materials. We like to use the example of like just a standard 2x4. You know, they build a road into the forest, cut a tree down, truck the tree to the mill. It's milled up, it's kiln dried, then it's planed, then it's shipped to its respective market. In this case, all the way to the islands. So there's so much energy that's consumed into creating material in the first place. And so when we can save it, we're also recovering all that embodied energy. In fact, we have a grant from the city and county of Honolulu that where we report on the greenhouse gas reductions, and they help fund the organization. The other benefit is just local community resources, affordable things, sometimes free. In fiscal year 2023, we helped the community save about $570,000 as compared to buying equivalent new material. So, you know, it really helps folks that are trying to save costs and repair their houses. Everyone knows about the fires in Maui. It's an ongoing project to, you know, clean things up and help folks rebuild. And so we have this strategic partnership set up through other nonprofits to funnel resources that way. We're currently liquidating a hotel that has 1,200 rooms. And so we just have so many dressers and desks and all kinds of you know, these rolling stools and all kinds of furniture that people can use. So that's been nice. We actually redonate it to these other nonprofits. The third benefit is preserving high quality material. Everyone in the industry knows, like, one certain material, once it's demolished and thrown out, it's lost forever. Old growth redwood, things like that. And so there's also some historically significant material that, you know, buildings that might be older and have significance, but come down anyway. And so if you can preserve those materials for reuse, it's really an important thing to look at. This photo here is actually in the tallest building in Hawaii. It's on the 28th floor of the First Hawaiian Center. And it's a great example of building material reuse because it's all from an old house in a small neighborhood down the road, oak flooring and the redwood wallboards that you see everywhere. Actually, not too different from the time lapse material that we just saw. So, everyone talks about economics, and, always trying to kind of fine tune how it plays out for deconstruction clients. And so we've sort of found a way to price out our projects and then also put an emphasis on the tax deduction. And so this is just rough, every project's different, but the upfront costs, as you can see, for deconstruction is higher. But a typical project, in fact, the time lapse house was about $42,000 in tax deduction.
Wow.
So depending on the tax bracket, it can lower the cost substantially. And in this example, you're paying about half of what it would cost to do demolition if you factor in the tax savings. Plus, people feel good about not throwing out the whole house, and it's better for the neighborhood and all kinds of other issues. And so that's why our deconstruction program is so busy, is people really see the value in it. And then the fifth benefit is providing employment and training opportunities. As everyone knows, the work that we do, there's a lot of opportunity to learn about teamwork, tool use, learning how buildings are built by taking them apart, equipment, forklift operation, all that sort of thing. And so we've been really thrilled about our ability to train and employ folks and give them opportunities down the line to potentially get higher paying jobs somewhere else. And then in terms of the general economy, deconstruction is so much better. There's the direct labor income differences, right? Because deconstruction takes 5 times more labor than demolition. And then there's the indirect and induced labor income. So just how those wages support the broader economy. And then so you can see these totals: demolition 6,400, deconstruction 23,000. So really important to kind of look at these kind of deeper benefits of the work that we do. And then the workforce development piece, like I said, we started it relatively recently, and we realized that we can really tie in a social impact to the environmental work that we do by looking at folks that need assistance in the community and designing collaborations and programs to train and employ those folks. So really looking forward to this cohort-based model, because we think it's going to make a big difference for a lot of people over time. Okay, so the next is we've been doing this for so long, so I have 5 tips for I like the term deconstructionist. So those of you on the call uh, might benefit from this. And so the first is prioritizing safety. If you've been doing this for any period of time, one of the things that you realize is that there's so much risk in the work that we do. You know, pulling buildings apart by hand has inherent risks. Running a retail building material operation, driving on the road, all these things. And so,
Is that
so
sorry,
go ahead.
I didn't know if that was someone trying to ask a question, but it looks like it was accidental noise.
Okay, good. Yeah, so just having safety be kind of the number one. And I know it's sort of a cliche thing in the industry, but it should really be an authentic priority for anyone doing this sort of work. And then I was in a leadership development program in 2018 called Omidyar Fellows, and it was a 14-month program to kind of train and empower local leaders. And one of the things that they taught us early on is the difference between technical and adaptive challenges. So the story I tell is we were doing actually our biggest project ever. It was 100 buildings, and so the site was huge. It was like 80 acres, um, and our hammers were going missing. We had 20 people on site, and you'd find hammers just kind of laying on the ground everywhere. And so I thought, oh, this is just a technical challenge where we have a technical solution of just getting everyone a hammer holster. So we did that, and the hammers were still on the ground, even though people had holsters. And so we realized it was really an adaptive challenge, and adaptive challenges are a little bit more hard to figure out how to solve. And, it takes a couple of rounds of troubleshooting and so, but what we found in this case was that folks didn't really fully understand how much investment there was into the tools that they're using. And they also didn't have a sense of ownership. So we looked at people dedicating tools per individual, and then also just communicating some of the budgets and needs around our tools. And so over time, then it got better. So just really looking at some of the technical versus adaptive challenges. And hopefully you've got technical ones because those are easy, but the adaptive ones you really have to work hard at. But that, by the way, that's my son Skylar. He's talk about adaptive and technical. So yeah, the third tip is utilizing compact telehandlers. We actually have 5 of these machines. There's a couple of different sizes that we have, but they really cut down on the labor need by allowing you to manage material, offload trucks, load trucks, dump debris. We have hoppers that go onto them. It's just like a night and day situation. And I know they're really expensive, so that can be a big barrier. But they've been really instrumental in the work that we do. The fourth tip is thinking about offsite processing. We just never seem to have time on site to pull nails out of material. So we do trim, we do the wall boards because there's almost no nails in it anyway, and beams because there's few nails in beams as well. And everything else can get trucked to a offsite area where you can just dedicate a team to doing the material processing. It also helps in organizing the inventory for your donation receipts and all that sort of thing. And the last tip is consider whole building deconstruction. The path I got here was sort of roundabout where I worked for Second Use, and we would do selective salvage in buildings that were slated for demolition. And I always remember like getting in the truck after we pull the clawfoot tubs and the mantles and all that stained glass windows and things like that. And we drive away, but there was so much left behind, all the lumber, mainly, but also just, everything that you can recover, sheet goods and the material that just, you wouldn't be able to get to. And so I think it's like a hard thing for the industry. Sometimes I talk to a lot of folks and where, we just look at doing free services for folks. And they'll say, yeah, I can have my kitchen as long as I don't have to pay. But if you say I'll take your kitchen and the rest of the house for $30,000 and then communicate the tax deduction, then sometimes people can turn around and then it just ends up being a way more impactful effort. And I know it's a big, it's a taking whole buildings apart is a big thing, but just always encouraging folks to look at that broader impact type of work. And then I wanted to also share, before we get into discussion and question and answer and stuff, just wanted to share some key resources. So the Stardust website, great organization, really impactful work. We've got Build Reuse. This is the National Association for the work that we do, and they have a conference coming up in August, so good time to make arrangements to go to that. Our website here at Reuse Hawaii. And if you haven't seen it, there's a really great white paper that Cornell University put out about the circular economy and deconstruction that really, I think, was really well done. Everyone should try and digest that. Okay.
Quinn,
So,
you covered a great deal, and I know I've been scribbling some questions down. We're starting to have just at least a few in the chat, but folks, as you have questions, please either use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or depending on how it pops, just go ahead and relax with that, or put your questions in the chat. But first, Kathy Mirza is asking about how you manage gypsum wallboard.
um, Kathy, can you elaborate on that? Right.
Yeah, I have laryngitis. I don't know if you can even hear me.
We can.
Um, but just wondering, like, is it separated and are you able to have reuse opportunities for gypsum or did it crumble on you? Just wondering if there are any kind of special practices with gypsum. Thank you.
Yeah. So depending on where you are, there's recycling avenues for drywall scraps and sometimes demo drywall. Out here, we don't have recycling for gypsum, so that all has to go to the landfill. We do help local suppliers of drywall because they often have like bunks of it that are just somehow damaged and but still reusable. So that we do take and redistribute as a reusable resource as is. And I know there's talk about working with drywall companies to uh, preserve this cutoffs and making it into a soil amendment. But we haven't gotten there yet, so still more work to be done, hopefully by someone else because we got our hands full. But yeah, thanks for the question, Kathy.
Okay. Jennifer's asking if lumber from deconstruction is your most common reusable item.
Yeah, so our top sellers are definitely lumber, also cabinets and furniture. We for the first like I don't know, at least 5 years of the organization, we didn't take much furniture. Then in 2020, we expanded our services to include hotel work. And so furniture is usually number one these days. But yeah, lumber is so versatile and people get really excited about the old growth Douglas fir and the redwood and the occasional cedar that we see and there's lots of different applications for the lumber. So yeah, we have a 1 acre lumber yard open to the public and folks are loving it.
Wow.
That's very cool. One other quick question. With the furniture that you receive from hotels, is it more kind of lobby or is it across the board? It's like, you know, 100, bed boards and so forth.
Yeah, so this is another kind of example of like how do you design your service, your salvage work to leverage contract revenue? And so we actually bid on the entire liquidation of a hotel. Sometimes it feels like, wow, is this a good idea or not, right? Because it's so much material. So yeah, it's tricky. We actually have I didn't mention we have a 15,000 square foot overflow warehouse for hotel material. And so we do everything, including sometimes the mattresses, which are really challenging here. Not sure how it is with other places if you can't reuse them. But yeah, it's a good revenue generator. And then folks just love the furniture. There was a time 10 years ago where it's sort of not the greatest style, but the items coming out of hotels now, they're just fantastic and really good condition. I don't know about in your locations, but here in Hawaii, the hotels liquidate their and replace their furniture every 5 to 8 years. So it's relatively new.
Thank you.
I'm going to squeeze one question in, and then we'll go on with what's in the chat. Some of the materials that you talk about in terms of the residences that you're deconstructing, is there a typical time period or a window of when they were built that you target or where you find the greatest value in the materials?
Good question, Kathy. Yeah, so here between 1950 and 1970, There's a ton of houses that were built with that single wall style, post on pier, redwood wallboard, usually an oak floor, sometimes Douglas fir floor. And they're just great candidates for deconstruction because they're simply built and it's all reusable.
Okay.
So yeah, we look at that, but also there's such an array of different projects. There's commercial projects, like there was a car decking roof on an airplane hangar at Fort Island, Pearl Harbor. And so it was 80,000 linear feet of this car decking material. So we did that. And, we've worked at schools before doing gyms and all that sort of thing. So,
Okay. Wide range. Super. Thank you. Um, Alexis is asking about what other common building materials need to be sent to the landfill, triggered by the gypsum conversation. Is there anything else you are not able to reuse?
yeah, so asphalt shingle, we can't use carpet unless it's left over. So we do take leftover carpet tiles and rolls. But And then there's also a sealing material called Kanic, and it was a byproduct of the sugar industry here. And from the byproduct, they made a fiber board, and it just falls apart. And so it also has arsenic in it sometimes, so not recommended to hang on to.
Okay. Okay. And folks, as I'm going through the chat questions, just because I'm reading them, if you want to chime in and clarify it or elaborate on it, please do that. Beth is asking, how do deconstruction projects come to you? Do you have relationships with contractors?
Yeah, great one. Yeah, so we have probably 20 general contractors that loop us in on most of their projects. Really efficient way to do project development because they just know how we work and they introduce us to the client. We had a meeting last week and I was joking, but not really, that the general contractor is our spokesperson with the client because he just did all the talking and explained how it works. So it's really great. Um, and then other times we have homeowners just call us or do an online inquiry through our website directly to find out more about the service, and we schedule a site visit and then give them a detailed proposal with more information about how long it takes, the costs that we'll ask them to pay, and then the tax deduction benefits.
Okay. So are the costs for each deconstruction contract, how wide a range? Is there a set or a rough amount that's typical for a residence, or is it case by case that you figure this out?
Yeah, every project's different. We just started one this morning, and it's like a $48,000 deconstruction project of a 2,500 square foot house. So that can be kind of typical. And then, but we've also done, our biggest project was a $2.4 million project, that the 100 buildings I was mentioning.
Okay.
So yeah, all
Super.
all across the board.
Okay. Alexis is asking, in general, how you set the price of the recovered materials for resale.
Yeah, so that is, we have a pricing guide that we've put together and that we also need to work on. Pricing and material acceptance is, you wouldn't think it, but it's always something that you want to keep looking at as you go. Um, some of our pricing strategy has to do with the volumes that we have. We, like, for example, on the hotel project that we're doing, we have 1,200 of these rolling ottomans. And so it's just, there's so many of them. So we sell them for $5 each. And people are surprised, because it's got casters on it and everything. But we're just looking to get material redistributed to the community. But if we got like a clawfoot tub, donated, which we don't see very often, we would price it higher and just let it sit around for a while if we need to. Yeah, kind of, that's a good question. It's we also have a free section. So if things don't sell, we put it in the free section. And folks always find a way to use something if it's free.
Okay. Okay. Kathy Mirza is asking about your process for acquiring space for your warehouse, the tree milling yard, the overflow, and so forth. Is that all private property or any public-private partnerships? And she's looking at the context of space and the cost of that in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So commercial real estate's really tricky. I think everyone knows that. It's especially for organizations um like reuse organizations that aren't necessarily, um, high revenue, high net result type of operations. So we for us, we partnered with the state on our first warehouse. We were there for 15 years, and the state passed it along to another agency, and they had different plans for it. So we moved last October, and we decided to take on a pretty sizable project in doing an adaptive reuse of a grocery store. So we have a 50,000 square foot space that used to be a big grocery store that closed down about 8 years ago. And our overflow warehouse is a closed down Kmart, and our lumber yard is the parking lot to that Kmart. So we're just sort of using this obsolete space that the landlord, was trying to figure out something creative to do. So I think it was a win-win. But general warehousing, I think it might be similar in other places. It can be really expensive and really challenging, and rents can go up. And so like you, Kathy, I'm also interested in partnering with local government to help support the real estate needs of the reuse industry, because it's not just us. I mean, it might be e-waste, it could be, other types of waste reduction activities. And so there's some great examples, like in Boulder, Colorado, resources over there. Their space is city property that I believe, as of 5 years ago when I talked to them, they don't pay for it. And that just makes a really big difference, like if we paid $25,000 a month in rent, if that went away, um, then it could just help us in so many ways, to free up funds for other initiatives, and help us expand our capacity. So we're working on that too. And, I think there's a lot of opportunities for local government to support, because sometimes there's vacant warehouses that the local governments own, and that we could partner and make use of them. So, yeah, but I think it's a really important piece. We really need stability in the organizations that we run. And if you're not sure if you can stay in your warehouse, I've been there before. It's not a good place to be. There's a certain vulnerability there, and unless you have like a big capital reserve, it can be a make or break situation if you get a short timeline on a relocation.
Okay, super. Thank you. Mia Shogren, Mia, I hope I'm getting your name right, wants to know whether or not the tax credits are from federal, state, or both.
So I think folks leverage it mostly on the federal side. But I've heard people leveraging it on state as well. It's always tricky with the tax deduction piece, because there's only we can just kind of refer them to an appraiser and tell them the basics, but then they should really talk to their CPA. So we recommend they loop their CPA in early in the process so that they can inform them of what their benefits are going to be. But yeah, for folks that have CPAs that understand what it's all about, this non-cash charitable contribution, the 82, 83, all that, it can be a huge benefit, because like, the woman we're working with today, we just started, she's getting tens of thousands of dollars in tax benefit on material that is sort of in her way. It's not like has real value to her. I mean, she was considering just sending it all to the landfill. Instead, it's this huge windfall tax deduction. So yeah, Hope that helps.
Okay. Timony, it's great that you're here today, Timony. Timony's flagging that you've done such a great job with community outreach. And she points out web, social media, events, promotional items, and so forth. Can you talk about your outreach efforts?
Hey, Timothy, takes one to know one. So thanks so much, Timothy, for the question. Yeah, I was telling Kathy earlier that so we have a board member that's a communications specialist, and then we have our director of communications and fundraising, and then under her is a communications and marketing manager. And so with the three of them, we end up with some, great social media. We did a redo of our website a couple years back. The events have been fun at the new space because we have tons of parking and so yeah, I think it's just sort of a mix of, we like to partner with other folks, like the Sustainable Chamber of Commerce came down last week and they did all the organizing of the event. We just hosted. So it sort of splits up the workload for everybody. So thanks, Tim, and you got to come out and check out the new space.
I thought Timony might unmute and comment on that. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, Quinn, the grant from the city of Honolulu about quantifying embodied energy. It would seem you probably have some unique aspects to that, given that everything needed to be transported to you. So is that an even more complicated model than the rest of us are dealing with?
Yeah, it is actually. It's we had an intern do a bunch of work on it. And so we have kind of a model for calculating the greenhouse gases. We looked into having carbon credits rolled into our program, but it seemed like to certify them, it was a huge undertaking. So we put that on pause. Um, but yeah, I think if it might be a little bit easier for mainland states to do an analysis of greenhouse gas and really encourage folks to look at that because it's sort of a hidden benefit, right? That you don't see. So you definitely want to calculate that into your mission fulfillment metrics every year or every quarter or however you do it.
Okay, okay, cool. Folks, please do continue to either unmute yourself and ask a question, raise your hand, or go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm going to ask another one about your workforce development program. Is that something that was established in partnership with local government, or how did that come to be?
So we started that in 2020 in collaboration with another nonprofit called Kupu. They do conservation work and with a focus on youth development. And so they had an internship program that they rolled out in the midst of COVID called Kupu Aina Core. And so we had 5 interns come on and work with us through that program. It's all state funded. And so then we realized, wow, we could make a bigger impact through these partnerships. So we teamed up with the city and county. They have it's called Work Hawaii and the Community Services Department, and so they feed us workforce development participants as well. And then the newest initiative is, well, I guess before I share on that, we also support folks that are in transitioning from prisons and jails through the furlough program. So folks are just, needing employment as they transition out of prison. And turns out, a lot of folks don't hire them. So we want to provide an opportunity for those folks. And then the new program that I mentioned is actually federally appropriated funds to do a cohort-based workforce development program with focusing on these folks that are currently homeless, living in a shelter, but and so yeah, kind of a mix of different collaborations, federal, state, city, and county, and then other nonprofit organizations. But it feels good. It sort of changes the culture in the organization too when you have this workforce development component.
Mhm, mhm. Well, from the multiple things that you've mentioned, you are clearly an incredibly networked organization. You talk about the various partners, the contacts, the collaborations that are in place. It really reinforces the idea of reuse and the idea of a reuse ecosystem, which I think folks are now starting to get their heads around. You have thoughts on that? I don't know if you're familiar with some of the presentations that people are giving on that these days.
Yeah, well, yeah. So in my leadership development program, one of the core principles is collaborating and networking to create broader impacts in our communities. And it was actually one of the reasons I wanted to connect here today, is just to keep in tune with everyone that's doing this sort of work in other places. Yeah, so it's everything, and we teach this to our team members too, just even on just a crew member level. It's like none of us can really be impactful in the work that we do without the participation of all the people around us, and it extends into the other organizations, government, business. And so yeah, it's a really big piece, and honestly I wish we had more time to network. And we have a corporate sponsor program that people donate to us, and we share their support with the community. And so yeah, so much to get into on the networking
Oh,
piece. Thanks,
wow.
Kathy.
I think there are lots of things that different folks will want to follow up with you and learn more about, things like the corporate donor program or sponsorship program. I know hotel liquidation, there's some really unique things that you've made work well. Okay. Kathy Mirza is asking if there are state grants or local incentives that have helped to grow deconstruction in Hawaii.
No, actually, we've tried to pass some legislation for the last 5 years, and the building industry just doesn't want the regulation. And in some ways you can't blame them, but we really need some sort of policy to drive things further and have it be more of a kind of a systemic change in the way that the building industry works. The state did pass a bill to create a working group of different stakeholders. I think we're going to be on it to look at what policy might look like. So it was just a legislator that knew it was just be a waste of time to keep pushing and then create this working group to strategize a little bit more. So that's what's happening with that. There's some state grants, but we've had state support, but it's not like a staple of our funding. The city one is.
Mhm.
So grateful for all the support of our local legislators and city council.
Well, Kathy touched on something that I had a question tied back to something you'd said. It sounds like demand for deconstruction jobs is high, and that's a great problem to have, to be trying to juggle those. I wonder if that is, um, let's just say we do not have the same high demand here in the Phoenix area. So do you see that as part of just culture and mindset in Hawaii, or is I'm trying to figure out what's contributed to that, other than that you already had a community with a bias toward the environment, sustainability, reuse, and community.
Hmm. So is it that buildings aren't, I mean, it might probably be a good thing that there's not as much demolition in Phoenix, or
No, unfortunately, demolition is getting headway to promote deconstruction and reuse. It continues to be a challenge. We would
Mhm.
love to be as busy with deconstruction jobs as it sounds that you are.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if other folks on the Zoom might want to step in on that. I assume it varies by location, depending on how full your landfills are, the age of the community, what the materials are, and so forth. Just curious, it seems to be very unique in different geographies.
Mhm.
But has it always been that way? I know Kathy talked about incentives, but has it been a strong demand from the get-go for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there's such a big difference between demolition and deconstruction. So you sort of have to work with folks to understand the benefits, and leave more time and start early in the process, and really understand their potential savings from it. Um, and one of the things that we did is we try and fulfill as much of the demolition scope as possible, so that it makes more sense for the client to, you know, involve us in the first place, but then, pay us for all the on-site costs that we incur. And so that's been tricky because you end up pulling drywall and things that aren't reusable. So that can be hard if your staffing's already slim. But that's been a kind of a key factor. And instead of just doing selective salvage, we do the whole demolition scope of work, and that helps a lot in increasing the demand.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's the other thing that we do is we have a dedicated project developer, so a full-time person that all they do is do proactive outreach, field inquiries, and then work on proposals and do site visits and stuff. And in fact, it, could be more than one person. So just dedicating that time towards project development would be one tip.
Super. Okay. Well, thank you. We're winding down on time. Any last questions from folks who are on the Zoom? Please do feel free to unmute yourself or go ahead and put it in the chat. And if we do not have any, Quinn, thank you so much for your time. You've covered a wide range of topics. I think we've only scratched the surface. I know I had more things scribbled down, so I'm certainly going to follow up with some emails and so forth. But this was a great, far-reaching, really fun and inspiring presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank
Very
you to
welcome.
everybody who registered and participated today. We will be sharing the information with you afterwards. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Aloha.
Quinn.
Welcome. Thanks so much.